Hi, friends, and welcome to Self Meets Soul, a podcast where we discuss how to discover what sets your soul on fire and modern ways to integrate spirituality into your daily life. My name is Juliana, and today we are going to be ringing in the holiday season with tips, tricks, just ways to manage holiday stress. I honestly cannot even believe I'm saying this right now because it just does not feel like November. I don't know if anyone else feels this way. Does this have to do with the fact that I live in Arizona and it quite literally just got cold 2 weeks ago here? Perhaps. But regardless, I feel like this always happens every year where, kind of the middle of the year drags on a little bit and then suddenly we're like, oh my gosh, how is the year going to be over in like a month? So that's where we're at. I'm recording this episode on November 7th, 2024. So Thanksgiving is coming up in just a few weeks. Now, I felt called to talk about this with you guys because I feel like maybe when you think about the holidays and you think about what this podcast is about, spirituality, self-care, things like that, sometimes you might not see the connection between the two. However, I think it's really important to note that while you are on your self-development journey, your spiritual journey, there are certain triggers that come up throughout the way. And I think for a lot of people, the holidays is one of them. I know that it's certainly a stressful time for me. I also broke my lease 2 years ago and moved in December around this time. So I'm going to be moving again in quite literally 1 month, and that just adds to it. But all of that to say is that even if you have strong relationships with your friends or with your family, that doesn't mean that you may not feel stressed when the holidays come around. I know that things like budgeting, just spending a lot of time with people, making lots of plans, those are all things that can kind of tend to make us feel a little bit stressed, especially when we are moving away from something that is our normal routine. So one way to manage holiday stress this season is to avoid overplanning. And if any of my friends are listening to this, you're probably chuckling to yourself because you're thinking, oh my gosh, you are the queen of just overbooking and overplanning yourself. Granted, my digital calendar has helped me really get my act together here, but regardless, that still doesn't mean that you can't end up in a situation where you're overplanning. I'll give you an example. Last month, I saw 5 different friends in one day, like 5 different groups of friends, not like, 5 people, all one group, 5 different groups of friends in one day. I can't even tell you what it was I did that entire day. All I know is that I had something in the morning, I had something in between, and then I went to the fair at night, and the state fair. And while I love spending time with my friends, and it's one of my love languages is quality time, I just literally was so done by the end of the day. I didn't want to be there. Yes, I had a fantastic, amazing time. Don't regret going at all. But I do regret over planning and giving so much of myself to other people to the extent where I didn't have room to breathe literally all day. I think I left my house at 10 a.m. and then I didn't come back until 10 p.m. and that was just a lot for me. And I think when the holidays comes around, it is easy to overplan and overbook yourself. You might be having a Friendsgiving, and then there's actual Thanksgiving, and then you're planning trips to go see relatives or other friends. You have holiday parties, white elephants. Your work probably has some holiday parties. There's just so much that is going on in November and December that it is really easy, especially if you're a people pleaser, to just say yes to everything. And if you're like me, you might be thinking, well, I like to say yes to things because that's how I continue to foster my relationships. I totally get that, but it may just mean either planning things pretty far in advance, which I try to do, especially big things like a white elephant or something like that. But also asking the people in your life to be a little more flexible. That is totally okay. Say you have a white elephant at night and then during the day you're going like, I don't know, Christmas tree shopping or something, and then you're also going to go gift shopping. That can be a lot and that can be very overwhelming. So try and see where either you can adjust your plans to spread them out a little bit more, or simply ask the people that you are making these plans with, your loved ones, if there's any way that a different day could be planned or things like that, and choose to prioritize yourself in this case, because no one wants to be around an Ebenezer Scrooge. And honestly, this kind of sucks, but I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm turning more into that. Like, the Christmas magic is gone, people. Unfortunately, she has left the building. I remember I used to not be able to sleep on Christmas Eve because I would be so excited. And yeah, that's definitely not the case anymore. Like, I'm still happy, but I'm just not like excited like that. And it can be so easy when you are stressed during the holidays and overbooking yourself to become angry and annoyed and bitter because you haven't taken the time to like just spend time on you, to maintain somewhat of your normal routine, to just slow down and to just do the things that you want to do, because we're pretty much taught that the holidays is all about spending time with people you love. I'm not trying to take that away from these next 2 months. However, anyone who is starting this journey or working on their self-development, spiritual journey knows that it is not a crime and it is not a bad thing to prioritize yourself. And sometimes, honestly, that does come at the expense of other people. You know, maybe there's people in your life, like family members, who might not understand why you don't want to go to a certain event, or, you know, why you choose to go back home to your own apartment at the end of Thanksgiving dinner instead of spending the night. These are just some examples, but that's okay. Don't let that just vibe of the holidays stress you out and make you do things that you don't want to be doing. So that brings me to my next point here. Another way to manage holiday stress is to establish boundaries with family. Okay, so we just had an election. God, still triggered. It's only been like 1 day, so it's a little fresh. But, you know, I have a lot of friends, unfortunately, who have family members who don't care about their basic rights and things like that. And so I have a really good friend who, this is her first year, and she is not spending it with, her first year that she's not spending Christmas or Thanksgiving with her family, and she'll be spending it with her girlfriend's family instead. And that is so sad to me. However, I'm also happy for her because she is establishing that boundary with her family and basically being like, okay, if you're like, I don't feel safe around you, I don't feel respected, I'm just going to avoid this situation altogether. So if you have that kind of relationship with your family, or you've just noticed like, God, every time I go for Thanksgiving, we have this blow up fight. I end up getting so upset with my parents or my aunt or whoever it is. If you are truly able and feel comfortable establishing that boundary with not spending the holiday with them, then take that. Do that. Again, prioritizing yourself here. However, you know, it doesn't need to be that extreme, right? It could be, oh, you know, like for me, my family, we all have the same, you know, election season. None of that's going to be triggering for us. It's not like any taboo Thanksgiving dinner conversations, but just sometimes in general, I think me being out here in a completely different state for my family and living on my own, I think that sometimes when I'm put back into the family home, it makes me like regress a little bit emotionally. And I'm sure a bunch of you know what I'm talking about here. You just feel like, you know, you're sleeping in your high school bedroom, you're, you know, answering to your parents, you're coming home not coming and going as you please. I know some people don't have that kind of relationship with their family, but that's definitely my case. So my norm is very just scattered, and I just feel not on edge per se, but it's just not as comfortable anymore as it is to just be in my own space. So if that kind of resonates with you a little more, then a boundary that you can just establish with your family is to avoid stressful situations. Typically, if you notice that family member is starting to get riled up, or you're starting to get riled up because of things they're saying, just try to avoid those stressful situations. It's okay to excuse yourself from the table. It's okay to just go outside for a second, take a walk, remove yourself from that situation where you just know you're going to be triggered and it'll just cause you emotional distress. Sometimes too, you can also just straight up tell your family member that, like, hey, I don't want to talk about the election. I would prefer not to. Or why don't we keep this conversation just about like the family? If you feel like that is something that you can do, then do that. Establish that boundary with them, like verbally. But if everything else fails and you are just in a situation where you don't think you can leave, you don't feel comfortable speaking up, then just breathe through it. A lot of the times we try to avoid our negative emotions, and in some situations that's definitely appropriate, but in a situation like this, maybe with your family around the holidays where you feel like you can't leave and you can't say anything, then just breathe through it, come back into yourself, say your mantras, say whatever it is that you need to do to yourself to calm your nervous system down and make you feel like, you're more of a safe space. Another way to manage holiday stress is to start budgeting, start managing your spending now. One of my friends, honestly, she is too good for this, and you will never catch me doing this, to be honest, but I think she told me she has a separate account, or she has a bank account and a separate savings account, I think, specifically for Christmas gifts that she'll put money into all year round, so that when Christmas comes, she literally just pulls the entire amount from this account, and then she's not stressed about gift giving anymore. And honestly, girl, slay, but I probably won't be that good. So I'll try and give you some ways to manage your spending that have been helpful for me. November is a little bit of an expensive month, I guess. I have my sister's birthday, and then 3 of my friends have birthdays. And so it's 4 different birthday gifts I have to buy during the month. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, December is a moving month for me. I didn't move last year. I stayed in my same place, but I'm going to be moving this month. So we know that's going to cost an arm and a leg. But the point of all this is what's coming. Okay? This isn't the really unfortunate event of your car deciding to just on you. Hopefully the audio got that. Just trying to poop on you, basically, and you don't know when it's coming, right? You are taken aback. That kind of financial surprise. The holidays are at the same time every single year. Your birthdays are at the same time every single year. If you're like me and you're moving, you know when your lease is going to end. These are all expenses that you know when they're coming. Yet somehow, every year, myself included, we are oh my God, I literally am spending so much money on Christmas gifts or just any kind of gifts. And it's stressful, and I totally get that. So, like I said, I'm recording this November 7th. If you haven't started getting gifts for your family and friends, I would suggest starting that now. And if you're I just have too many other expenses right now, I need to take a second, then at least write out the gifts that you want to get for people and give yourself a time for when you're going to get it. Say, okay, you're going to get your dad these things, then maybe space that out. Every week you buy one gift. Obviously, this is totally dependent on your family, Whether you do gifts at all, whether you just do one gift, whether you do multiple gifts. I'm a household that does multiple gifts per person, so now I'm at the age where obviously I'm buying all my gifts for people, and that can get overwhelming. So try and like spread out your spending and plan when you're going to buy things. That way you're just chunking it. Holiday stress also tends to manifest itself with unhealthy coping mechanisms like binge eating or binge drinking. I know this is something that I've had people mention to me like, oh my gosh, the holidays come around and everything I've been working hard on all year goes out the window. I stopped going to the gym because I don't have time for it. I'm eating a crap ton of food because it was Thanksgiving and then it was, Christmas or whatever you celebrate. And so you're around your family, you're eating a bunch more. There's like literally Thanksgiving leftovers for days, and that can be overwhelming. Also, like there is a drinking culture that comes around the holidays. Even my hometown that I return to like for Christmas, you always see like people from high school out at the bars that week of Christmas because like everyone's home. So everyone's just like, well, gonna leave my family for a bit and just go to the bars. And obviously everything is fine in moderation. You don't want to be obsessive about your eating. Like, don't feel like you need to make up for your Thanksgiving meal. That's an unhealthy habit, right? But if you're stressed out and you find yourself leaning towards like escapism with eating or drinking, try to lean towards those healthy coping mechanisms that spirituality teaches you. Taking the second to meditate. Personally, I'm not big on meditating in my own house or when I'm staying with my sister. I don't really do that there. It just feels weird to me. So maybe instead of doing like a sit down meditation, you do a walking meditation. You just take a minute, maybe walk outside 15, 20 minutes, no music, no podcast, just being completely present, right? That can bring you back. That'll slow you down, take you to the current moment. Breath work. So not necessarily doing maybe like box breathing, things that are super obvious if you're around a lot of people, just really intentionally focusing on your breath. Even saying things like, I am breathing in, I'm breathing out. Just kind of walking through like that. Also, if you are traveling for the holidays and you're in a different place, that could be a good opportunity to try different workouts. Go to a local yoga studio. If you have ClassPass like me, just try, you can use that literally anywhere. So try different workout studios. That will set boundaries with your family. It'll give you your you time, but it will also be a healthy way to deal with any stress that might be coming up. And the last way to manage your holiday stress that I have for you all today is to allow yourself to just feel your feelings in any moment. I think for me, I know that I've dealt with this where I have some guilt sometimes towards like, oh my gosh, like my family member's annoying me. I wish I was home right now. And then, I'll catch myself being like, oh, don't say that. You never get to see them. You miss them so much. But it's okay to acknowledge how you're feeling or how someone else is making you feel in that moment. Just like shaming yourself for feeling certain ways and trying to feel another way, we know that that never works in general, but that's especially not going to work around a time where you are out of your normal routine, out of your normal environment, and things are just different. So accept the feelings that are coming up, work through them if needed. And this also goes with like mourning any losses. Holidays can be a really triggering time for people who have lost loved ones, who are like divorced, not in a relationship anymore, literally have lost like dogs or animals. Because for a lot of people, there is tradition or just kind of a normal routine that you have with your family in regards to the holidays. And when life does its thing and, you lose people and you lose things and you lose traditions, it can be a little jarring. So allow yourself to feel that sadness, to mourn whatever it is you need to mourn, and then find ways to deal with that. Maybe you spend time with friends instead. You switch up a new routine. You find ways to incorporate that loved one that's no longer there into the holiday itself. Do whatever it is that you need to do to get through this time, because again, it's not like this happy, merry, cheery time for everyone. And I honestly hate how people make like Christmas and Thanksgiving feel like that, because not everyone feels that way, right? So do whatever it is you need to do to get through that, and just know that all of this is temporary. This comes and it goes every year, and you'll be back on your normal routine, feeling your normal feelings very soon. Well, that's all that I have for you today, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. If you like this episode, be sure to leave a review and share this podcast. You never know who in your life might resonate with it. Chat with you later.